Hey, good evening, folks. Welcome, America. Welcome to the David Englishman Show with your host, David Englishman. This is part B of what I believe is the most important show that I've done. And I'm going to get right into this. So, we finished off on the last show, kind of getting into some of the political aspects of COVID-19 and where this is all going. So, we already know that we have a certain segment of the left that is into the cancel culture of everything to do with our country, whether it's statues, it doesn't matter. I mean, Black Lives Matter and Antifa were burning Bibles in Portland one night last week. I mean, we last saw that in 1939 in Germany. I don't know where the lunatics on the far left think that this is going to take them, but the left themselves, the people in power, they're using these people as their shock troops to keep you engaged in all kinds of things so that they can try to clean up behind themselves, which is what they've done since Trump was first elected. Actually, before that, during the campaign, they were spying on his campaign because they could not lose. They had to win because this is so... What I'm about to show you tonight is so sinister. It's disgusting, and it's permeated everything. And this is one of the biggest cover-ups in world history. And they couldn't let Trump win because he was going to expose them. So let's get right into this. So we have Chicago rep, he wants to suspend the teaching of history until a suitable alternative is developed. So let's go in and just read a little bit of this. It says, a Dem rep named LaShawn Ford in Chicago is now calling for the suspension of teaching history. NBC5 in Chicago reports, Chicago area leaders call for Illinois to abolish history class. Leaders in education, politics, and other areas gathered in suburban Evanston Sunday to ask that the Illinois State Board of Education change the history curriculum at schools statewide and temporarily halt instruction until an alternative is decided upon. I have no words. And I have no words because, quite simply, they are trying to erase everything about the United States. They want the next generation to have a hate-on for America worse than the last generation, who happens to be the white rich kids who are Antifa, who have infected Black Lives Matter, and are now looting, burning, and rioting. BLM, burning, looting, and murder. I figured out what the initials stand for. BLM, burning, looting, and murder. Burning, looting, and murder. Nothing more, nothing less. The Black Lives Matter movement, which probably started out as a small movement to try to gain some political leverage to show that, yes, there are some bad apples as police officers, but there's bad apples in every single occupation out there, from politicians to medical doctors, Fauchi, to Hollywood entertainers, to people on your mainstream news, to the lawyer up the street, to the carpenter who comes and fixes your house, to the technician who works on your car, to the electrician who's working on your house. It doesn't matter. It could be the dentist who's working on your teeth. There are bad people everywhere, and they come in all political stripes, and they come in all colors, sizes, shapes, ethnicities, religions. All of that is irrelevant. You're either a good person or you're a bad person. The loonies on the left are bad people. The Democrats in the center and the conservatives that are in the center, you need to pay special attention to the second segment of this show because I'm about to blow your mind. And I mean that really. And I want you to, after this show, go in and look at all of the links. Watch some of these videos. And there's one I am going to implore you to watch the whole thing and then go and watch the actual movie. So let's get right into some facts here. I am not going to play you Schumer talking. I can't stand the sound of his voice. He's been in politics for over 45 years. and he's accomplished absolutely nothing for the American people. He's playing political games, and again, he's playing political football. We're the football. We are just being kicked from one side of the field to the next. And there's no regard for us. There's no regard for the American people. And we're going to get into why. But I thought it would be very fitting, because you see, this was posted because even Schumer and Cuomo are saying we need to open schools. See, he starts off saying, oh, the economy, is falling apart. We took a look at the jobs numbers, and we need to do something because the GOP and the president with his executive orders aren't doing anything. Excuse me? It's obfuscate and deflect for these people because they've got nothing. The GOP offered them a deal. They said no. Trump comes in and says that he's going to put together an extended $600 per week for an indefinite amount of time while they figure it out, and Pelosi leaves town. Now they come back, and all of a sudden that they see that Biden's poll numbers are going down, and so are theirs, and they've got constituents out there that are pissed off, and basically writing them and bashing them all over social media, saying, you people are doing nothing, you're hideous, you're awful, you're in this for yourself, you're on the take, and you're not doing anything for us, but you're blaming the president, which is what you've always done, is ridiculous. So they come out trying to do everything that Trump's already done and is doing. So now they want to reopen schools. And they want to spend another $1 trillion, and they want this, but they want to bail out the cities and the states that went bankrupt from years of decay from being run by them, and from the riots in cities like Portland and New York City and Seattle. And so I wanted to share with you a couple of these comments, because I got to hand it to you conservatives out there. You're a smart bunch, and you're starting to really pay attention and catch on. Though one person says, I say these negotiations need to be televised. Things would get done if fellow Americans could see what's going on in real time. Well, they kind of are. If you go to the government TV station, and you can put it on in CPAP, whatever the hell it is. I don't even know what the name of it is. I have it on Hulu, and I just click on it. Democrats want money to fix the cities that they themselves allowed to be destroyed. They broke it. They should fix it, not the American taxpayers. That's what's holding up this package. The government really needs to get back to voting for each and everything. Stop with packages. I agree 100%. All they do is they just put more into the bill and put riders on everything to try to get crap passed and underneath the nose of the average American. The Democrats are saying what Trump said months ago, open the economy. They're saying this now to imply that the relief help is due to Republicans holding it up, once again pointing blame. I hope everybody here remembers this come November and votes these idiots out of office. These comments go on and on and on, and I really have to give you people out there credit. My fellow Americans, you're a savvy bunch. You're paying attention. I hope more people that are center are focused on this election, and they don't go for the personality more than they're going for the substance of what's being done for us. So here's where I'm going to get into this. All I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what his name is. His name is John Paul Rice. He's an independent producer in Hollywood. And I'm going to take 10 minutes of your time. This is extremely important. Extremely important. To put all of this together and to put all of this into perspective, you need to watch at least this 10 minutes, and I strongly, emphatically encourage you to go watch this video in its entirety, and then I strongly encourage you to go and watch the movie that he produced called A Child's Voice. So without anything further, I'm going to play 10 minutes and 5 seconds of this man's 43 minutes, and I want you to soak every single word that he says in. Take it all in. This is really in live time. This is within the last 4 days. Pay attention. Seriously, folks. You're never going to see this stuff anywhere else. I swear to God. We got another video without sound. Okay. Let me go back.
Amazon.com, you can't. At Senator International, later Mandate Pictures, under the producers who did Juno.
I gotta go to 2 minutes, 33 seconds.
Who comes on. I just wanted to talk to a couple of you. My name is John Paul Rice, for the people watching that may not know who I am. My friends know me. I'm an independent film producer. I've been in Hollywood for about 20 years. I started my film career in Remember the Titans. Worked at Senator International, later Mandate Pictures, under the producers who did Juno, The Grudge, Harold and Kumar, Stranger Than Fiction, and eventually The Hunger Games when they went back into Lionsgate. The reason I wanted to talk to everybody here today is because over the course of the last week or two, we have found out without notification that Amazon.com, for which we have 6 of our movies on there, our film A Child's Voice, which has been on there for over a year and a half in the UK, the United States, and now 70 other countries, was suddenly, without notification, removed entirely from their platform. They unpublished it, and they made it not searchable in most of the sites. We've only tested a few outside of the United States, but the one in the United States, if you put in A Child's Voice in Amazon.com, you can't find it on the 1,100 pages that they'll give you back on your searches. The only way that you can get it is through a direct link, and we discovered this because the director's daughter had sent the links out to several of her friends when the Wayfair scandal broke, as well as the Maxwell files being released in the last 48 hours. And Amazon came back to us. They gave us a very standard corporate non-committal response that said, we make a lot of changes, we do this and that and the other, we judge things based on performance, but they couldn't give us a very specific answer, and we all know what the answer is. What our movie did before Epstein was known about in the public, and before Maxwell was known about in the public, is we found a network of pedophiles among a global network of people who were selling kids back and forth to each other, trading them like candy. It goes right in through Hollywood. If you look at the Daily Beast article, you'll see that Jeffrey Epstein had a pipeline right into Hollywood through Harvey Weinstein. That was last year. I've done a lot of deep dives and research into this, and there is a very satanic element to it, for which we incorporated it into our movie. Our movie is a feature film. It deals with 2 teens, one who's a homeless, heroin-addicted teen, hears the voice of a child who had been killed at the beginning of the movie, calls out for his help, and he goes on a mission to rescue a girl from these human traffickers. They come together, and then they stand up to this network in a spirit of love and courage for all of these children. It's a very beautiful film. It's been well reviewed, well received, critically acclaimed by the people that have reviewed it, and also many users, by the thousands, by the tens of thousands, by the millions all over the world have seen this. So when we had all of this come up, we went viral with it on Twitter the other day, and it exploded, because we still have one platform left here in the United States, and that's Vimeo.com on demand. What I would like everybody to do is, more importantly, I don't need to get back on Amazon. I already know what they're going to do, and they've got a stack of lawyers, but we're looking for alternative platforms where we can release this movie and get it out to as many people as possible. Our movie is not a documentary. It's a feature film. And we did this based on all the evidence and the facts that we had learned and incorporated into a story that you get involved through the character's journey. Their road to redemption is through love. And this issue of human trafficking, which many people are waking up to today for a variety of reasons, is the issue that defines all of us in our time. The media corporations, the most powerful 6 corporations in the land, in the world for that matter, are all implicated in human trafficking of kids. And I would point to anybody who wants to know more about that to look at Project Veritas and the leak disclosure of off-air footage of Amy Robach from ABC News when she found out and was discussing in 2016 that they had everything from Virginia Giuffre, all of it. Everybody who was involved, they had all the evidence. Their own lawyer said that when all is said and done, Jeffrey Epstein will go down as one of the most prolific pedophiles in all of history, and they buried that story to have access to the royal family, for which we now know Prince Andrew was implicated. They did not have any remorse for the victims in that video. This is a bigger problem because most people know in that world, and the world that I come from in Hollywood, that it is a hidden layer that everybody knows is there. When the Me Too movement started in 2017, I reached out to several of my female actress friends who were prominent in LA. You would know them by name. Many of them you would know by just their look, because you go, oh, that was her in that movie or that movie. And I said, well, what about the children? What about the children? And the response was, we know. But they were silent on it. And it destroyed me because it destroyed my illusion of what rights, human rights were, children's rights were. This is a child abuse system that we have been living in for a very long time, and it's been allowed to go on. And I will not be silent about this because it affects every single one of us. The people on television who smile at you, who tell you stories, who give you news, are the ones who hide all of this from us. They are not talking about the real issues. They are distracting you with division issues. This is a unification issue. When the Maxwell files came out 48 hours ago, I went on MSNBC, I went on CNN.com, and I looked at every single one of their headlines, and there was no mention of it whatsoever. They were talking about John Lewis's funeral. They were talking about Obama versus Trump, all of the bullshit that you and I hear every single day. And it doesn't matter what side of the political equation you're on this. This is a child issue. This is a human issue. This is not a political issue. It has nothing to do with left versus right, Democrat versus Republican, liberal versus conservative, or anything you are or you identify with as in between. We are faced with a crisis of consciousness among the leadership of our banking institutions, of our media corporations, of the Hollywood entertainment industry, of the music industry. This is not about a bunch of young women who were having sex with older men and make it about a bunch of perverts. They raped and tortured these girls against their own free will. No matter whether they paid them or not, if you read the articles and you listen to what Ghislaine Maxwell said about the girls that she picked up in West Palm Beach's trailer parks, she was asked, what about the young girls? What are we going to do to them? What's going to happen to them? She said, they are trash, they are nothing. That's a direct quote from the New Yorker. When I went and looked at edge.org, which you can find out was a multi-billionaire club of people that was financed by Jeffrey Epstein, you can go to edge.org today, look up under people, and go to G. You'll see Bill Gates on there as a contributing member of that organization. And you'd have to go back in the Wayback Machine and Internet Archives to look at all the other people. Jeffrey Epstein was right on there. Marina Abramovich is on there. Paul Allen was on there. All the heads of major industries were on there. And if you start reading some of the articles, one of which I have a direct link to that I will share with anybody who DMs me, there is a direct quote on there that said, indeed, human beings are, in our youngest years, among the most useless creatures in all of the animal kingdom. This is how they view children, through science. This is their expression. These are people who have no ground to tell you what to think, what to do. So when they get up there and they start espousing their views on social justice or whatever the hell it is, know that you're hearing a controlled and scripted dialogue that is going through a filter by people who are very powerful, who hold a lot of money, and they are controlling and conditioning all of these people through pedophilia. And there's another layer to it, but it's too unbelievable to believe that they would also sacrifice kids. And I'll give you one statistic that you can look up and verify for yourself. If you go to UNICEF and you look up child sex trafficking or human trafficking, you'll find a statistic globally, worldwide, according to the United Nations, that 40 million people a year are trafficked around this world. 40 million. It's a $150 billion a year industry, for which has very dark and ugly ties. And it goes all the way up into Wall Street and beyond. But I will say this, 5.5 million children every year are trafficked around the world. 5.5 million, most of whom don't live past age 7 or 8, which means they have to replenish that supply chain.
So, I looked into this. And the more I looked into it, the more the more sickened I became, because I believe, and I've been saying this on quite a few of my shows, these people have been protected. Epstein was protected. This is so deep, it's not funny. This is why they thought they were going to get away with the spying on Trump. They thought they were going to get away with all of what they've done. These people are reprehensible. Unfortunately, I believe the right has its infection as well. I don't believe that the right has as many players in the government as the left does. Because the thing about the left is, well, they believe in like 100 different genders and everything, but they have no morals. They have no scruples, they have no morals. I'm talking about the extreme, and they've all gone extreme. Pelosi's gone extreme, Schumer's gone extreme, Schiff's gone extreme. They've all gone extreme. You've got AOC, she came out extreme. She was an extreme bartender. Ilhan Omar, well, I'm sorry, but she's just radically extreme. What's the woman's name from Hawaii? Mazie Hirono? She's a lunatic. She's not just extreme, she's an extreme lunatic. These people don't give a damn about you or me or anybody else. And the biggest cover-up in American history is going to be exposed. It's going to be this issue and all the other issues that we're being faced with. The impeachment, the coronavirus, the lockdowns. Now they want to vote by ballot, by mail. All of this is being thrown at us. It's division, right? Chaos. And meanwhile, they're going to say, look at us over here. Well, they screw you somewhere over there. The left is never straight with you. The left is always devious. They're weaving a web of deceit, lies, fraud, malfeasance. But this is the biggest cover-up in U.S. history. And it's sick. It's sick in the depravity of it. And that so many key players were involved in this. Epstein, Weinstein, I mean, it goes all over the place. It's been reported that Oprah, you got Bill Gates, you've got all kinds of people. And yet there's 45,000 sealed indictments? Who are all these indictments for? Remember after Trump got elected, all the different CEOs and banker CEOs that all resigned? And then how many of them have killed themselves? Go and do the research on that. Maybe in the next week I'll do a show on all the people of prominence in the banking world and in the corporate world who have committed suicide since Trump took office. Why would that be? Because these people were the financiers for all of this. They were paying the money. They're implicated as well. Right? I don't believe they committed suicide, just like Epstein's personal banker didn't commit suicide. These people were taken out, so they didn't talk. They better put Maxwell in some, like, they need to put her in a van, take her to an undisclosed location, change her identity, put her in another van, drive her somewhere else, change her identity, and move her somewhere else and put her under lock and key with, like, the best SEAL team out there to make sure she doesn't get killed. Because she knows where the bodies are buried, metaphorically and possibly in real life. But she knows where the videos are. She knows where all of this information is kept. Plus, she also has a lot of it stored here. She can put away a lot of these people. But why do you think Durham has got all of these prosecutor investigators working on so many different aspects of the Russian collusion case? Folks, this goes way beyond Russian collusion. Russian collusion was a diversion for them while they tried to clean up their mess. This is the mess. So, one of Trump's executive orders in February of 2017 was with regard to human trafficking. Have you noticed all of the people who have gone down so far? Epstein, Weinstein, there's others. I mean, there's others who weren't as prominent. You go in the news, you can find them. I didn't retain all their names, just the ones of the most prominence. But these people are horrible, and they're being protected by the news media. They're being protected by politicians. Some politicians are involved in it. Bankers are involved. Corporate CEOs, board members of corporations. This goes very deep. And that's why they didn't want Trump. That's why they didn't want Trump at all. Because Trump is about America first. Trump has got a moral compass. And they tried to pin Trump that, you know, he was buddies with Epstein and all this shit. Excuse my language. Epstein was reported to have tried to pick up a woman at Trump's golf course in Florida. And when Trump found out about it and the way that it all happened, he told Epstein, "You're out, just get out, you're never coming back, I don't want anything to do with you," right? But there's a moral compass there. Trump may talk and get, you know, like the Billy, whatever his name is, tape from back during the campaign. I can't even remember the guy's last name. But it's bravado, right? So a lot of people talk bravado. And I'm sure that girls talk bravado too. When they're alone and they don't think that anybody else is listening, I'm sure that there's talk that is said that nobody ever wants repeated. Ever. Right? Because you look like an asshole. Anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. You shouldn't be throwing stones at people who live in glass houses because you're the one living in the glass house. Just go look in the mirror and point your finger. It's always pointing back at you. Point one finger, you got three coming back at you. We all forget that. We're all sinners. We all are sinners, but not to that degree. Right? These people have no moral compass and they have no, what's the word I'm looking for? They have no regrets. You know, there's no feeling of guilt or no compassion. How could you do that to a child? But I wanted to show you this evening that, along with a few other things, to show you how the rules that they lay out for us are never the same rules they lay out for them. And they're evil, satanic, twisted, fraud committing, thieving, malfeasance infested, just the most rotten scumbags that walk the face of the earth. I know that's harsh to say. I don't have much nice to say about some of these leaders on the so-called because they're not Democrats. This is no longer the party of JFK. Party's dead. My grandfather was alive. I swear to God, if my grandfather was alive, he would be screaming bloody murder. He would be screaming bloody murder, saying, "What did you guys let happen to your party? But don't forget, one of the goals of the Communist Manifesto was to take over one or both of the political parties in the United States. Well, the capture was the word, the actual word. Capture one or both of the political parties. Well, they certainly captured one. They got the whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. So I want to show you about Gavin Newsom. And this is another one. It's going to blow your mind. It's just, how do these people get away with this? He's not going to now. But this is the guy putting everybody in lockdowns, telling people they can't go to work, and all of this. Meanwhile, people are losing their homes, people are going bankrupt, people are losing their businesses. And watch what this scumbag is doing. Unreal.
For more than a year now, a reporter in Washington, D.C. has been requesting text messages and emails between Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner and people of political influence, including billionaire political donor George Soros. This reporter filed a lawsuit under the Sunshine Law, saying the office promised to get him the information, then later denied him. Now a judge has granted a default judgment. Greitens talked via Zoom with me today about this fight he believes will end.
I apologize. The video with Newsom is coming next. So this one here, George Soros, and I know that people on the left, the ones who are really extreme left, are going to say, oh, here he goes again, putting on his tinfoil hat. I apologize, it's 10 to 4 in the morning. So they're going to say, put on his tinfoil hat, George Soros can't be involved, blah, blah, blah. This is on news at 10 o'clock, which is a local news, and they're talking about Governor Greitens. And Kim Gardner is the prosecutor who basically made up a false story to try to convict Greitens and make him resign as governor. It's all come out now that that's a bogus scam, right? Total bogus scam. So I'm going to rewind this just a touch. I want you to hear what he says.
A lawsuit under the Sunshine Law, saying the office promised to get him the information, then later denied him. Now a judge has granted a default judgment. Greitens talked via Zoom with me today about this fight he believes will answer who was behind removing him from office.
For over a year, she has ignored the law, and finally, the judge demanded that she turn over her communications.
2 years ago, Greitens' criminal lawyers repeatedly alleged powerful people wanted the then governor prosecuted. Kim Gardner filed an invasion of privacy charge after Greitens was accused of taking a picture of his blindfolded and bound mistress. Greitens told only Fox 2 this past February he never took a picture, and prosecutors never found one. The case was dismissed. Currently, Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner's former private investigator faces perjury charges for his role in the case. Greitens has called it a conspiracy to overturn his 2016 election. Reporter John Solomon, with a website called Just the News, has been asking who else was involved. Missouri Attorney David Rowland filed a lawsuit to find out.
My role in this case was enforcing the law. My sole interest was, I looked at it, the Circuit Attorney's Office was clearly not doing what they were supposed to.
They've asked for Gardner's communications with Attorney Al Watkins. Watkins released secretive recordings revealing Greitens' affair after accepting $120,000 in cash. Scott Fawn, a convicted felon who runs an online political website, he said the $120,000 was his money. Also, communications with lobbyists for the low-income housing tax credit, an industry that lost millions after Greitens eliminated the program. And George Soros, a billionaire who financed a committee that gave nearly $200,000 to Gardner's 2016 campaign. Cell phone crime. And paid for this commercial.
As far as the court's concerned, the Circuit Attorney's Office did engage in 4 separate purposeful violations of the Sunshine Law. The good news is that ultimately he will get the records to which he's entitled.
We still haven't to this day had the Missouri legislature do a full investigation of the people who paid over $120,000 in cash bribes to people who lied about it. So it's good that the judge has stepped in.
A spokesperson for the Circuit Attorney's Office said she would get me an answer, but we're still waiting on that answer. Open up the Fox 2 app and look for this report where you can read this default judgment and find out what soon may become public. For the Fox Files, I'm Chris Hayes.
So Soros is spending $50 million in this election. he's been financing prosecutors in every state. Why? Because he wants the most left-wing prosecutors you can possibly find, and he'll put in people that can be bribed or bought off or coerced or worse, blackmailed. And this is what they do. So they'll blackmail these people by anything. Money, sex, child trafficking. It doesn't matter. And they'll have them do their beck and call. And that's what's been going on in our country. It's not just the lobbyists. It's all of the vermin that have infested themselves within our government. They're vermin. People. These politicians have installed people within our bureaucracies which are working against us. We have judges coming down with laws that don't exist and rendering decisions based upon laws that don't exist against us. You seriously need to wake up. Red, up and down that ticket. You can't vote one of these people in. None. The vermin need to go. I'm not saying the GOP is the answer to all your prayers. But I'm sorry to say the other side is definitely causing all of your ills and all of your woes. And it's proven. It's out there. It's in your face. And for those of you who say, oh, Dave, you're still a conspiracy, tinfoil hat wearing, crusader. It's not a conspiracy when it's proven. So Mark Levin, we were just talking about prosecutors. Here we go with judges. Levin referenced the Newsweek article written by Josh Blackman, South Texas College law professor and author of An Introduction to Constitutional Law, 100 Supreme Court Cases Everyone Should Know. In his article, Blackman asserts that the Supreme Court has turned into a sieve, and worse, the leaks appear to be specifically designed to advance politically motivated narratives. He then lists 5 steps Chief Justice Roberts can but likely won't take to bring the court back to order. So Levin actually believes that it's Chief Justice Roberts who's the leaker. Now, it gets worse than that. So Levin says, we're seeing a complete breakdown of civil society and a constitutional system. This week, the Democrats have threatened to expand the number of justices on the Supreme Court and pack it with leftists. This is how evil and totalitarian the Democrats are right now. They're prepared to burn down not just cities, but burn down the whole damn country. And the video is here below if you want to watch Mark Levin. He's a very good speaker. I watch him. I listen to him as much as I can. I get some very good information, and then I go and I research the hell out of the information. So, with regard to BLM, everybody knows who Herschel Walker is. I found this. I encourage you to go and watch it. Send it to your friends. He makes some really valid points, so listen to this.
For the first time in a long time, I stopped in the middle of my workout because last night I saw something that really, really disturbed me. I saw a bunch of people holding a BLM sign, burning the Holy Bible, burning the flag of the United States of America, also burning the cross. And I started thinking that, NFL, NBA, WNBA, MLB, is this the people you're supporting right now? Is it the movement? Is it the organization? Because I don't think that's right. Maybe, Washington, we can't not continue to sweep stuff underneath the rug, because sooner or later we're going to stumble. People, are we being fooled? For the first time in a long time, I stopped in the middle of my workout because last night I saw something that really, really disturbed me. I saw a bunch of people holding a BLM sign, burning the Holy Bible.
People are starting to wake up. people are starting to put two and two together, and they're seeing that something's just not right. We're under assault. From every angle, we are under assault. Speaking of BLM, I spoke about this 2 shows ago. I looked for this video so hard they had taken it down. I found it somewhere else on Facebook, and I want you to see what these blue lasers are capable of. This is what they're using to blind police officers, and listen to how little time it takes to do that.
What they're using in the riots, these are lasers that are from Hong Kong. These are 5-watt lasers. Your dog laser is 5,000 milliwatts. This is 5 watts. This is 5,000 times brighter than your dog's toy. Watch what happens here. That's solid wood. Already burning it. Dark paper, and it can do this up to a quarter mile away. Burn a hole right through the paper. Instructions say if it even touches your eyeball for 1/8 of a second, you can go blind. They are using these on our police. What they're using.
It's incredible. Totally incredible. And yet these mayors are giving their police stand-down orders. Then they complain that the feds are in. So the feds back off in Portland, go and just stay in the courthouse, and the state troopers are out protecting it. And the governor and the mayor kept saying, oh, well, if they just pull the feds out and get them off the streets, things would go back to normal, blah, blah, blah. It didn't. They're still rioting, they're still burning, they're still looting, they're still committing murder. So that's a lie too. We're being lied to on a grand scale. Doesn't matter where you look, you're being lied to. Then we get to Joe, who can't remember himself. Joe 33330. You got to see this. I'm sure you've maybe seen this on mainstream, but I wanted to talk about it.
What you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things. You go to Florida, you find a very different attitude about immigration in certain places than you do when you're in Arizona. So it's a very different, a very diverse community.
Huh. Well, that was a pretty inflammatory statement to make towards the black community, don't you think? I'm telling you, folks, his mental faculties, he's not there. He doesn't know what he's saying half the time. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know how to stay on point. He throws out gibberish like the lion and the elephant in one of his things because he loses his place. He can't remember what he's talking about. So he throws crap out there as a time filler. And then when he realizes he's going down the rabbit hole, he goes, oh, I can't talk about that because I'm going to say something that I'm going to regret. That is just a cop-out because he can't remember where he was going in the conversation that he was having. If he becomes the president, like I've said before, he's going to be the puppet. Somebody else is going to be pulling the strings. But if you give it enough time, maybe like 100 days, they're going to pull out the 25th Amendment card on him, like they tried to do on Trump, and then they're going to take his vice president, who they've already picked. They're going to pick the most radical person that he had all these names for. They're going to take the most radical lefty out there. So I honestly believe it's going to be super liar. Hey, she's a super spreader. She spread her legs all the time. Kamala Harris, she's a super spreader. And I have a funny feeling she'll be the president. She'll be the first female president. Will be Kamala Harris, right? Boy, won't that piss off Hillary? Seriously, won't that piss Hillary off? And then they're going to pick even another whack job, even wackier than she is, to be the vice president. Who are they going to pick? AOC? Ilhan Omar? They're going to pick the moron that Biden wants as the gun czar to take away everybody's guns under under their stupid legislation. I mean, seriously, these people are sick. But in the meantime, they're pushing him as the leader of the party, the presumptive nominee. I mean, they haven't even had their convention yet. So they're pushing him, and it's like, it's elder abuse. Think about it. The guy doesn't know who he is, where he is, what's going on. He's making a complete fool of himself. They're going to use him as a vehicle or a tool to try to get into the White House, and then they're going to remove him under the 25th Amendment, and then they're going to put the extreme thumb on all the rest of us. Well, if you let that happen, America, you deserve everything that you're going to get. But I'm not a betting man, but I'm going to bet on this one, that the Patriot movement just suddenly comes up out of the woodwork, and that you're going to have yourselves another civil war right here in America. And the Civil War is going to be the patriots against the idiots in the government. And they're just going to go and clean house. They're going to arrest everybody. I was going to include something in tonight's show. I didn't, because I wanted to talk about that, of what we can do as patriots. So, I'm at work, and I happen to run into somebody who's watched my show, watched a couple of episodes, and they said to me, "Hey, did you ever hear about Shays Rebellion?" And I said, "No, what's that about?" And they said, "Oh, well, my kids are learning about this in school." And he goes, "They talk about it." He goes, "I know some about it," but he goes, "Here, let me write it down for you." He says, "Why don't you go do the research?" He says, "You might find it useful." So apparently Daniel Shay, he got upset over a 3% tax on his farm and his farm goods. And anything that he sold, his produce, plus his property was being taxed, and he had enough. So on his way into town to go and address his government and put his grievances before, the judge and everybody else, because they were throwing people off their property for non-payment of taxes. And he went farm by farm and asked people, "Are you getting as upset as I am over this?" And pretty soon he had enough guys with guns and pitchforks and shovels. They went in, they threw everybody out of town hall. They even threw the judge out, and they suspended everything, including eviction notices and you name it, until they could hold the municipal elections again. They held municipal elections and they won. And they overturned all these taxes. Well, what I'm trying to get at here to convey to you is, if it can be done then, it can be done now, because our Constitution gives us the right to overthrow a government that doesn't conform to what the Constitution states. We have the right to redress our government, and we have the right to take the government out and to install another government should this one not be working. That's our inherent right. It's not a privilege. It's not if the Democrats tell us that, "Okay, guys, you can grab your ARs, you can go to Washington and arrest everybody now, and the cops are going to stand down, and the Washington police are going to stand down, the Secret Service is going to stand down. We're all going to stand down because you guys are," it's our right. And understand something. Most of the people who believe in the Second Amendment, there are over 24 million former active duty service members in this country, and a good 90% of them are armed. It would be the largest standing army on the planet. Understand something. The Tree of Liberty would definitely be watered. With how many people? Who knows? But I'm sure that there would be a crap ton of arrests, and they would let the courts in the aftermath deal with that. The main thing is to arrest them and to have fair and free elections and to put our government back to work for the people. These people are sick in the head, and they all need to be rounded up and turfed out of government. If they won't leave quietly, we need to vote them out. And if they won't go, or they win by fraud, then we as Americans need to do something about it. They keep saying, "Oh, well, Trump's not going to walk out of the White House." I guarantee you, with what I see and what I hear, we have friends that are driving across the country right now. Yep. How you doing, guys? Hi, Craig. They're driving across the country right now in their big diesel truck, pulling their big trailer behind it, and they're heading to California, but they've gone through most of the states, and right now they're in Texas today. And Carolyn said to me this evening, she goes, Megan wrote me and said they see tons of Trump signs all the way down to Texas, not one Biden sign. Folks, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? They've gone all the way up through Illinois. They've gone all the way back down. They're driven all over. What does that tell you? The only way they can win is by rigging the election, these stupid mail-in ballots, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. They have nothing they can win on. Their platform is disgusting. It's tax and spend and more tax. It's big government. It's more bureaucracy. It's more put their thumb on you. It's you're going to have a vaccine. Your vaccine could be 1, 2, 3, 4 different shots, inoculations. And they could use nanobot technology, which that other doctor talks about further in that video. You need to go and watch that video too to get let the whole thing sink in. There's a coup going on against the American people, and it's not just us, it's against the entire world. Look at what's going on in Australia. It's against the entire world. Understand that. We're not just under attack, it's everywhere. They flooded Europe with all of these illegals and all of these people from the Middle East. They opened up the gates and just let them pour right in. These people have not assimilated to Western culture. They want Western culture to assimilate to them. Because they weren't told when they went into these countries, like we used to do here up until the 1960s, that you have to learn how to speak English because that's the primary language. You have to learn how to read and write. You have to understand American history. You have to go and take a test. You have to go and do this. You have to be able to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. You have to... Very few things you have to do anymore, but you don't have to speak English. You don't have to read and write English. You speak your own native tongue. And I see it all the time. People come in to the business, and I have to go get somebody to translate for them because they can't speak. And I'm not saying they're bad people, but I'm saying we as a country used to have a priority to make everybody inclusive, to be an American first. You left your old country to become and be an American. Be an American. You assimilate to American values. You learn our language. Right? You talk to some of the older people who came in from South American countries, who came in the right way, and they're all about Americanism. They're all about learning how to speak English. They're all about all the values that we hold dear. But the people who come in here and sneak in here, they don't care. Because the desire, right? So if I'm somebody who really wants to get into a country and I'm proud of it, and I want to, build something for my family and for my future and for my children, right? I'm going to do it the right way because I want it to be legal. And so it gets you here. But when an illegal comes across, there's no commitment. There's not the same level of, I hold this country near and dear to my heart and I want to make something out of my life. No, they come here to gain an advantage, but they're doing it illegally. And meanwhile, they're diverting billions of dollars back into Mexico or wherever they came from through, these banks. Western Union was one of them. The money leaves this country by the billions. Welfare money, under the table money. We're in a sad state of affairs. Thank God Trump is there and he's building that wall, but we have hard choices. So this is what I was going to show you with Gavin Newsom. This will blow your mind. Again, it's just
you really pay attention to this. Really. You're not going to see it on local news. Check it out. New details appear to indicate California Governor Gavin Newsom's new $3.7 million mansion was gifted to him under highly questionable circumstances. One America's Pearson Sharp has more on that deal.
While the rest of Californians are suffering under Governor Gavin Newsom's onerous lockdown and struggling to pay their bills, the governor appears to be making backroom deals to pay for his massive new $3.7 million mansion. According to investigative journalists at Red State, Newsom was apparently gifted the 12,000 square foot estate featuring more than 8 acres of land along the American River in Fair Oaks, just outside Sacramento, through an LLC that's owned by his cousin. Newsom's cousin, who is also his longtime business partner, Jeremy Scherer, paid for the estate in December of 2018. Less than a year later, records show his LLC gifted the home to Gavin Newsom completely free, stating that Newsom was part of the LLC, allowing him to avoid the transfer tax. The problem is, Newsom didn't file any of this extra cash, and they aren't mentioned on his financial disclosure forms, which also don't include the LLC or the millions of dollars in gifts.
Tax fraud.
In January of this year, Newsom received $2.7 million when they finalized a cash-out refinance, and that was all tax-free since proceeds from mortgages are exempt from taxes. Attorneys and legal experts say being gifted such a property through an LLC is a huge warning sign for tax and regulatory agencies, and likely indicates either tax fraud, money laundering, or a payoff or bribe.
So, Aaron.
Tax fraud, money laundering, payoff, or a bribe. What else could it be? So you see, folks, they want you to pay your taxes. They want you to be law-abiding. They want you to be broke. They want you to be poor. They want you to be under their thumb. But for them, they'll try to get away with everything. It's just the Democrat way. But they're not Democrats. They're Marxists. They're communists. And they're socialists. So let's get into the mail-in ballots, and then we're going to wrap up. So Trump writes, because of mail-in ballots, 2020 will be the most rigged election in our nation's history unless the stupidity ends. We voted during World War I, World War II with no problem, but now they're using COVID in order to cheat by using mail-ins. Remember, watch me over here while I screw you over there. Always remember that. Trust but verify. Everything. You can't trust and verify a mail-in ballot. I'm not talking about absentee ballots because they have to have... See, and they'll never talk about this on mainstream media. An absentee ballot is different than a mail-in ballot because an absentee ballot gets sent to somebody who you already know lives at the address, right? You already have their signature on file. They can go on and they can track their ballot as it's being couriered through the system, right? Whereas just a regular mail-in ballot gets mailed out en masse to everybody. So you have no idea who's getting it. You have no idea who might get 2 or 3 or 4. Plus you also have ballot harvesting, right? You have all of this stuff going on in the background. But they try to confuse it, saying, oh, well, absentee ballots. The GOP is totally against absentee. No, that's not what they're against. They're against just blatant mail-out ballots to people and hope that, you know, everything's going to go fine. So let's do a little bit of research here. So it says here, whether or not the 2020 election will actually be rigged is beside the point. If the Michigan primary reflects what awaits in November, Americans will have a little reason to trust the results of the presidential election. So let's take a look at what happened in 2 states. 2. Thousands of New York's primary ballots not counted because of technicalities. What? Although New York's primary election took place more than a month ago, problems in the system have caused confusion as the counting finally appeared to wrap up this week, CBS 2 reported. Congressional candidate Suraj Patel, who had been waiting weeks to find out the results of his race against U.S. Rep. Carolyn Maloney, said thousands of ballots were not counted. We know nearly 25% of people who actually went through the trouble of requesting a ballot, getting it, and voting and dropping it in the mail will not have their ballots counted. Patel, who did not prevail in the race, said the absentee voting process needs reform. As many as 20% of New York City absentee ballots cast in the primary have been disqualified. That's absentee ballots. That's not even the mail-out ones. Oh my gosh, they knew who these people were. and they're not counting those ones. Huh. I'm a little upset, you think? Pissed? I see my country being dragged down the toilet, and I suggest more of you should feel the same way. More than 18,000 mail ballots not counted in Florida's March presidential primary. And this is from the report from the National Healthy Elections Project. Said the uncounted ballots came in late or had defects that prevented them from being counted. Defects? What defects? So what I'm getting at here, folks, is no matter where you turn, these people are going to keep coming. It's going to get worse between now and November. They are going to try to do everything in their power to bring Trump down, to crash the economy, to completely drive the American citizenry against each other on division tactics. They're doing everything. They want to destroy the nation because they need to cover up their malfeasance, their pedophilia, their theft of American taxpayer money, their covert operations, and their socialist, Marxist, communist agenda. That's where we're at. We're at 11:59:59. This is going to be a long second for the next 94 days, folks. It's going to be a long second. It's going to be a long 94 days. All right. I hate leaving you on a sour note. Oh, one last thing. This is the bumper sticker I designed. I'm going to put my email address in the show notes. If you want one, I'm going to be selling these for $5 each. Let me know if you want one. Give me your address and everything, and I'll get you one of these mailed out. So, it says, come on, man, vote for Trump. Trump 2020. No more bullshit. So if you like the show, hit the like button. If you would like to subscribe, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Hit the subscribe button, and you'll get instant notifications. And again, go on, check out all the show notes at the drop-down box underneath the video. And I strongly encourage you to go and watch 2 that I posted from tonight's 2 shows and watch them in their entirety. It'll blow your mind. Thanks for watching, folks, and I hope you stay safe. Good luck with our country. God bless America.